Hi there, traders. Welcome to the Prime Time Pro introduction. Okay, now this is a trade tool that I've been developing, well, thinking about it for a number of years, but then developing for at least the last 12 and intensely the last 6 months, just trying to get the damn thing built. So now the whole scope of the trade, right? And this is, providing trader education for 15 years. We know exactly what happens in the market, when it happens, is the strange part of the timing, but the general structure of trades, right? And we go through a lot of this when we are sort of analyzing the markets, right? You're sort of analyzing the markets most days, and or you should be just having a look anyway, right? There's some days that things just aren't happening. So if I just bring sort of Metastock across, we are looking at the markets, and we're always trying to work out, where an instrument is going, and the missing link is the timing, right? And we've always considered stochastics, but more as a managerial tool than the main instigator. But what I've found is when you are trading and we are looking for specific setups, okay, and you're like, yeah, I want to get short. I know this thing's going down. I want to get short close to this trend line, and we set up Trendline Trader, okay. But then sometimes the timing may just be out. And you know what? We may hit a pocket of momentum that is driving it up, and you end up getting stopped out. You've got the absolute best place to be getting in, but the timing isn't correct, right? So the timing can throw you out. Now, for a lot of traders who, this is the other element of Primetime Pro. It's about being objective, right? And naturally, as humans, we are completely subjective. And a lot of the times, we used to hear this many years ago. Like I'm talking like 20, 25 years ago. I've been doing this for 35. Remember in the 90s, I was working at Citibank London, and we had the biggest trading team in the world at the time. And I was talking to a couple of the guys that were managing a lot of the big fund managers. And when I say that, they would be the primary contact for the fund manager to call the bank. Then he would talk to me. He was like the in-between guy, like a real estate agent almost. And then I end up going out with a couple of fund manager guys, and they're like, their primary focus, right? It's a little bit different to looking at what we do as proprietary traders as compared to what fund managers do. Now, what fund managers do, and this is where you see big trends develop, right? We see an opportunity here, right? So this is the daily chart on Euro. We see an opportunity. It's coming up to a major support trend line, and we're thinking, wow, okay, this thing breaks through. This thing's going down. And I reckon for years, and I'm not talking about just myself, you either get into this trade, right, or you don't. Now, if I just sort of widen that up, the hardest part about getting into long-term trades in particular, right? And this is the starting point for building Primetime Pro was how do I get into these trends and stay in them? Because when you look at the hourly charts, and I look at this, and this is an easier way to sort of put it into context. You're like, we've got like, you look at situations like we've just had in October, right? We've had, the Middle East conflict is kicked up. It's going a little bit mad. You get the hurricanes. You've got a geopolitical situation here with Trump and a potential stronger dollar on the back of his election win. You're looking at this and you're like, well, we're in a framework where the Federal Reserve are, to me, in a very aggressive cutting cycle, right? And regardless of what the news says, they are cutting, right? Minus 0.25, and they're going to keep doing it like this. I think there's another 0.5% this year. So this will be on the 7th of November in 2 weeks. They'll cut, and they'll cut again before the end of the year. Nothing's changed, right? And they are leading the cutting cycle. So you'd think on a fundamental basis, the dollar, should be going down. And it was. And then all of a sudden, a whole range of geopolitical stuff kicks off. Now we've got a situation where the treasury yields are going up. There's a whole bunch of factors here. The market globally is caught out, right? And that's what's going on. So this thing keeps going up, and you're like, how the hell do you get into that, right? And this is sort of one thing. So coming back to the fund managers, right? And if I just come back over, I'll get the dollar index up. So we're looking at the same thing. What they do is they buy with strength. If this thing's going up, like it's above, broken, they just keep buying, buying, and buying. They sell with weakness. Okay. And it's sort of a little bit counterintuitive for most humans because we're like, yeah, it's broken down, but that's it. Right. But when it breaks the big trends, it's not it. Right. This thing's just going to keep going. This thing could go down, well down. I've seen euro under 90, right? We were trading that around oh 07, oh 08, oh 06. Anyway, I've seen it at levels that you would probably not dream of. So it can go a long way. And to stay in the trade, you need to be completely objective, right? And so Primetime Pro was built around objectivity and just trying to isolate the best, like where the instrument is going. Is it going up or is it going down? When are the major points of momentum, right? But not just that, really nailing, there's three different entry types here that we can use. And if I just click on Primetime Pro, it'll load up. Okay. And you've got three different entry options. Okay. And this isn't necessarily about risk appetite. It is a little bit. If you're aggressive and you don't want to miss the trade, yeah, go in early. Okay. But it's still the right time to be getting in. But the first entry level, you got peak sell and then you got prime time sell, right? So we got three levels. The Primetime Pro will populate the chart. And what we're trying to do is isolate these things, right? And I'm only looking at the hourly chart. On the daily chart, this is where it really sings because you can actually monitor a bit of this yourself if you were looking at the hourly charts and you're looking at the market activity on a daily basis. Say there's a fundamental release coming out, you can sort of gauge that and keep an eye on the general momentum where it is, right? Now understand, this is just an indication of what's going on with momentum. Doesn't mean it goes up or goes down, but what we're trying to isolate is the direction it's going, right? And that gives us the edge. So, and for those traders who think, okay, well, this is great. So I just get an EA here, a trade execution tool, and that's it. Well, not really. You can actually do it, but if you want to use this tool to its absolute optimum levels, you've got to take the content from the masterclass course. Now you put that with Primetime Pro. Now you're talking about amazing. Right? Because the masterclass course will tell you everything about technical analysis that you need to know to identify direction and how to factor in like the potential impact of fundamentals, right? Central banks, economic numbers, and then also where you should be executing and these sorts of things. So there's two components to this. One is Primetime Pro. For new traders, it's a great tool to get started. If you want to be outrageously successful, well, then combine that with the knowledge in the masterclass course, and now you're really cooking with gas. Okay, so let me just sort of give you an idea here. And the yellow line here, I'll just point out a couple of features. Now, I've drawn that trend line in just so I know where the pressure points are in the market. Now, Leonard, I was just sort of talking to you before we started about the settings here of stochastics. Now, I reckon about 20 years ago, it's probably around then, I changed my stochastics from 1433 to 1033. And I can't even remember the exact reasoning, but I was just testing a few different variables in the market. And I found the 1033, for whatever reason, worked for me more consistently than anything else. Okay, so I know if you get most platforms up, the stochastics setting is 1433. It may not be much, but it might be a slight variation that may work for you or may not. But I'm telling you, the way I've built Primetime Pro, it works. And it works definitely for the way I've been doing this for the last 20 years in particular. Now, the moving average here, right, which I would refer to as the bull bear pivot line. Now, this is a good gauge of whether this instrument is going up or down. It's almost like a psychological level, right? But it's a physical level that you can look at and identify what's going on. And this is where trend lines, incorporating trend lines behind this or with your charts gives you an extra layer of confidence and understanding. You're going to be able to nail the trade a little bit more because you've got this, as I said, it's a physical level, but psychologically is the euro here going up or down, right? If it's below the bull bear line, to me, it's going down. If it's above, it's going up, right? That's as simple as I want to look at it, right? The idea is to remain objective. And when we set Primetime Pro into action on auto trade mode, that's what it will execute, right? So a situation here, right? And this is where you could step in if you were in front of the screens, because at this level here, right? Prime time, if I had this on auto trade, and I've got a detailed explanation of this in the videos that I'll be posting, is okay, the price is above the bull bear pivot line. So that's going up. So in the auto trade mode, if it's above the line and we get a sell signal, it will not trigger these trades, right? And in this situation, it's turned out it would have been a good trade. So if you're sitting in front of the screens during the European session and you're looking at the market and you see this setup, you're like, hang on a second, we're in a great oversold section here, but it's just had enough momentum to squeeze the market. And you know what? As soon as it breaks back down, I could be getting into that trade. So you can actually use it manually to get into trades that you can see because you're incorporating technical analysis. You know what? In actual fact, it's still going down, even though it had that little blip above the market. Now, so just looking, so the main function, as I sort of explained at the start, okay, we're buying with strength, we're selling with weakness. Okay. Now, in this situation here, right, are we buying with strength? No, because it's massively overbought, right? So that's why the system won't trade for you. It's like we've got a bit of a mismatch here. This thing could potentially be going up. And you know what? That trend line may have been adjusted to that level after it hit that level, actually, which is sort of like it is the case, right? So if I come back here, this makes it a little bit more realistic, right? So you can see exactly where the trend line is. Okay, and I like to be exact, so let's just get it on there. Okay, so this makes it a little bit more realistic why you wouldn't want to trade that level just at the moment. Look, well, there's a bit more risk involved, right? Okay, so below this level, it's going down, and I'm saying above it, it's going up. That's the rationale, right? So at this level, it is starting to show a sell signal here, as in it's massively overbought, but it's in the wrong position. And at that time, it's not until after the trade or after the price action works itself out, you'd have to think if we've got, you know, 3 prime time sells at the top here, it's overdone, but you know, maybe it's another instrument, maybe it's a fundamental release that has just had enough momentum to keep it up there. And once it's done, it's over and the trade disintegrates again. And you can see how it accelerates when it breaks back down below that bull bear line. This is what I'm talking about. You can maximize your performance here because there's no signal, right? You would be getting back into the trade and then letting the trade run or maybe squaring up on the dip down to that lower level. All right, so that's just incorporating a bit of manual processes in here. Once we've hit that new resistance level, you'd be adjusting your trend line. Now you can see how it looks, right? It's always easier after the fact. But so let me just come back and just sort of talk about the true essence of Primetime Pro. Now, what we're trying to do is the hardest part is getting into the trend and staying in the trend. Now, for 2 reasons. One, humans, we're subjective. Secondly, we see profits, we like to take the profits, right? And that's one thing. But once you get this into play, right, there's a couple of key areas here that you need to sort of be aware of, right? We're looking for ideally trending markets. And when you start to see a trend and an instrument fall away, say like Euro has and a lot of the majors, from the start of October, okay, it's very hard to get into this trade. The resistance trend line, and I know I've drawn it to here, is miles away, right? If you're like waiting to draw a resistance line when this thing started collapsing, it's sort of too steep, right? You get to this level here, and that level only exists after the fact. Then it drops, right? It's hard to draw a resistance line that makes sense until it sort of really tops out here, right? So getting into a trade, if I just delete that, into these trends, and this is where all the money is, right? All the money is in the trends, right? So we can, pick the eyes out of it, buying down here, selling up here, all this sort of stuff, like normal day-to-day stuff, bit of speculative trading that you might do. But you can start to see where you're running into trouble, right? We've got a bull bear line right in the middle of the market. So the market's flipping here to there, right? And it's confusing. You can see where fundamental releases come in and impact, okay? And you can take advantage of those. But overall, we're making money, but it's not the significant money you want to make. The big trends, and this is just the hourly chart, are in the trends. And this is where Primetime Pro smashes it out of the park. Now, don't think, and I've done some testing here, which some of you may have seen, it's on the website, around the euro, right? So with that testing, right, this downtrend, I think we didn't get into the first part of the trend until down here, right? When I set the strategy tester to test the euro, and I actually love the fact that it didn't, right? Because this first part was just a little bit hectic. Then this whole trend starts to form shape. It gets short. The bull bear pivot line maps it out perfectly. It's not like I've redrawn this. This has actually been here the whole time. You can see where it is. And what we did is we maximized the trade, and Primetime Pro, you can see right here, right, where it actually sort of came into play. Now, let me just blow that up so you can see, because there's a lot of relevant factors here that I want you to understand. And I've been looking at people building things for years, right? And I built trade execution tools to make execution for us. But then I'm like, you know what? Primetime Pro, I want something. And it reminds me of the movie where the guy had 2 or 3 doubles of himself, right? And what it enabled him to do was be in 3 different places at one time. That's what Primetime Pro is meant to do. If I had like 3 or 4 of me, one of me would be playing golf most of the time, and the other one would be surfing, and the other 2 or 3 guys would be trading, right? And what we're looking for, just sit in front of the screen, look for this setup. When it starts trending, we're looking for a signal to get short and then stay in the trend. That's what we're looking for. But you know what? You really need to sit in front of the screens for 20 hours a day. And are you going to do that? I can tell you what, you're going to be that fatigued that you are going to lose your mind. Now, this is where, compared to like a gimmick that you see out there that says, get this strategy, it works for right now. This strategy works forever. It doesn't work in specific, just right now and that's it. And I know a lot of companies, and I've seen this for years, they build robots, they look at a certain market condition, and it may be market conditions like this, and they go, okay, we've back tested it, now market it. We've got like 1 week to sell this before the market changes, right? And then it changes, and then you don't make any money anymore, right? Okay, and that's over. So no one uses it. But these trends have been happening in the market forever, and I've been testing them forever. And even right now, compared to previously, it does it all. Now, this is where I'm going to say the legitimacy of Primetime Pro as a professional grade trading software is. We've got euro dropping down here, right? And it drops and drops. The signal here is there's no selling. I love it. When I started testing this, I almost hit the floor, right? And I tested it across 4 or 5 of the majors that I could do on that strategy tester, and I was blown away. Not because of anything else, except it was really nailing the absolute best time. Now, this level here, I think it was a fundamental release. We could be on that ourselves, right? Primetime Pro is to supplement your trading, to supplement your long-term, definitely your long-term strategies, as well as your short-term. Okay. But we nail that. But outside of that, it's so erratic and so far from anywhere. There's no levels anywhere. You can't get into the trade logically with capital management, or can you? Well, this is where Primetime Pro comes into play, because we can, but after, now what is that? That's like the 30th of September. You're looking at the 4th, maybe the 7th, right? It's like a week. This thing's going down for a week, and you might be sitting in front of your screens. And I was sitting in front of my screens as we've been changing platforms, going, man, I can see that going down, but where the hell do I get in? Then I got the Primetime Pro. Here's the first signal to get in, right? It comes like 8 days after the actual move, right? Almost nails the top. And then with that, right, the next key part is staying in the trade, right? So we have a stop loss, okay, which has a trailing stop feature as well. So you've got your stop loss that will follow the market, or will stay where it is. And when the price moves down a certain extent, right, the idea is not to take profit, right? So we have a trailing stop here feature, which will trail the market. We can set it up. I've got it trailing by 75 points. Now, it may seem like a lot. Ideally, it works perfectly for long-term charts, but you can actually run similar risk. I've run a 30-point stop loss with a 30-point trailing stop on hourly charts, and it's worked very well. But the 50-point stop loss and the 75-point trailing stop has where the best results have come. Of course, you can make it bigger, but you want to have the minimum amount of risk, right? So this trails the account. So as the euro goes down here and just keeps going down, and don't forget, if you weren't using this like I was previously, you're scratching your head. You're like, how do I get in? And as I was saying before, there's no support and resistance lines until it sort of starts to flatten out a bit. Let me just get my pen back up. It's before it starts to flatten out around here. Or maybe you could probably draw one there. That's where you start drawing the trend lines, right? And then every time it gets back close to it, you're like sweating on it because you think, well, it's been going down for some time. I'll probably get stopped out, right? All these subjective things come into your mind, okay? And you see here, and it does drift sideways through that. And you're like, oh, well, I'm out. I'm out of the trade. It's now going up. Well, you know what? It's not going up. It's just drifting sideways because it's lost a bit of momentum. So looking at the trade here, okay, this is how you remain objective. You keep Primetime Pro. It will keep going and going until it hits your take profit, right? So like the Primetime Pro settings here are completely adjustable, right? For everyone's risk appetite and capital base, right? Not everyone's can trade 10 lots, but I do have it set at the moment to just one lot. Right? That's the general setting. So you can change it to what suits you. You can change the stop loss settings. You can change the take profit. Now, in this situation, you could almost change that to 500, because what will take you out is your trailing stop. Okay. So the idea is to maximize profits. This is the best tool. If the markets were trending and you go on holidays, you can actually set this up just to stay in the trend as long as you like, right? Now, you can set the maximum losing trades. Now, I've tested this, I reckon, 20 times, and the most losing trades it's had in a trending market is 2, right? I originally had that set to 10, but I'm like, I don't need 10. I don't need it. I don't need it to keep trading and mess up, unless I was using it in a short-term environment and I'm getting aggressive here in a really sideways moving markets. That's a little bit of a recipe for disaster, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But so the general settings you can set for yourself. We can have it set to trade, okay? Auto trade or no trade. You can have it set to in any of these settings, and if I clicked auto trade, both buy and sell. So whenever it hits a buy signal or a sell signal, depending on where that bull bear line is, it will execute. In actual fact, If I change this to trade, that just means it's a little bit of probably not the best name, but we had auto trade because it auto applies itself to the bull bear pivot line. Trade will just trade, right? It's an auto mechanism, but whatever you select, it will do both buy and sell, only buy or only sell, right? And you've got entry options there as well, depending on your risk appetite. To me, I'm astute and patient. I like to wait. I'll look for the best entry option, which is prime time to me, prime time sell, prime time buy. And you set that in place. So if I set that up to trade, okay, with the trade mode, every time a signal appears, it will execute. It won't even think about anything else, right? So that may be good or may be bad. I put it into play on a long-term trend in sterling, and the auto trade feature, let me just explain that just quickly. I know I'm going to lose you a bit, but I'll be posting some more videos about this. If I come up here and select auto trade, hit close, okay, we're on the hourly chart. So if I hit auto trade and the price is below the bull bear pivot line, okay, it will only trigger on sell signals. That's it, right? So you will get like these buy signals appearing, but they will not get triggered because the price is below the bull bear line. As soon as the price goes above the bull bear line, if I've got this set to auto trade and only buy, the only time it's going to buy is if the price at the time of the signal is above that level. And actually, as you can see, this is going down. We're not getting any buy signals. We're not getting any price action above the bull bear line, right? So all these buy signals are not getting triggered. So that's a really good feature because what you can do then is you want to sell with weakness, right? So I can set that to only sell, and it will only trigger if it's going down. It will only trigger when it's a sell opportunity, right? And that's the optimum time. You are going to miss opportunities here, right? You are going to miss these, and you could be manually trading. Don't forget, prime time is supposed to supplement your trading. So if you're sitting there and you see this thing trending down, we've got a trend line there, then you might be like, well, you know what? I could actually tap into the market here and get something going alongside your trades with prime time. Think of Prime Time Pro is a duplicate of yourself. It's sitting there like a cyborg trading, just sitting there trading and looking at you, sweating it out, trying to make a few bucks here and there when it just waits for the opportunistic time, and that's when it trades. Okay. So auto trade only buys if the price is above the market and only sells if the price is below the market, right? So that's a good feature. So if you did have both buy and sell, you can be confident that it's going to sell in the right spot and buy in the right spot. In trending markets like this, right, I would change it to just only sell because I can see very clearly. You don't need to get greedy. I'm like, I've got a trend here, right? So I'm just going to sell. And if I hit auto trade only sell, then it's only going to trigger when the timing is right and the direction is still down, right? I love that, right? Because if you start to get a sell signal and it's above the market, last thing you want to be doing is selling when it's going up, right? So that auto trade uses the bull bear pivot line. Okay. On an hourly chart, it's 70 hours. On a daily chart, it's 200, right? So you got to understand the settings. Once again, this is all explained in the instructional videos. But let me just come back to the trade. So you can understand auto trade. Okay. Only buying above the market, only selling below the bull bear line. Sorry. So that's what it is. We're selling with weakness, we're buying with strength. And we're also incorporating the timing, okay, when it does suit those levels. Now, if I change that to trade, this is the key part to it, is because you can actually, if I just got rid of that line, you don't even need, so having the auto trade, it allows you to be precise with your entry, right? When you are trading, and if it's set to, well, it's only set to only sell. So let me just explain that first. Every time there's a sell signal, it will sell. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where it is. It may be above the bull bear pivot line. It may be below it. Who cares? It's just going to sell. You tell it to trade, it'll trade. Okay. And in that regard, if I change that setting to both buy and sell, okay, then all these signals will get triggered. Okay. Now, if you're like a traditional swing trader, this is I assume how they're trading.
No,
No,
no, I'm sorry.
you're right. So you've got these levels here, right? It will sell wherever a buy or sell signal triggers because we've got both buy and sell. So trade is just like hit everything. Where auto trade is be precise and only do this if the price is above or below the bull bear pivot line. Okay. So you've got a few different options here with regards how to get into these trades and how to optimize them. So if I come back to here and I want to include, and so with the auto trade feature, if I just get this back up. Okay. So if I hit OK in the settings here, okay, we already have the bull bear pivot line built in. Now I'm on a daily chart, so I need to change that to 200. Okay. Now on your chart, nothing will appear. And just like the primetime oscillator is a visual to show you what's going on and where your signals are, we would include just actually draw a moving average to fit in so I can visually see where the market is in relation to that bull bear pivot line and what it's going to do for us. Okay, so this is, and you know what? I tell you, this is the magic, right? And a lot of people think you just build things just so you can get lazy. It's not, because, I mean, you can get lazy and still make a lot of money. But if you start incorporating trend lines here, then you can start to sort of nail it even a bit more, right? So if I'm looking at trend lines here, looking at euro, and you know what? Euro hasn't been the best instrument. Let me come over to sterling. Right, it's so easy to load this thing. So if I just hit primetime oscillator, primetime pro, and actually I'll just go auto trade, both buy and sell. Okay, now let's just change that to the daily chart because that's what where settings are. Now, if I incorporate, this is how what I'm doing is harnessing the power of this thing. As I said, using my knowledge of the markets from the masterclass course, you can really shoot the lights out of this. Now, if I just draw a trend line, okay, there's a couple of trend lines we can draw here, just out of a creature of habit. I will end up probably drawing them all. Okay, there. And if I get this one here, and like you got to be drawing trend lines on your charts. It's imperative. I mean, you're going to make more money doing it. So, we could have a situation here, like going back to this is what I was looking at when I was testing this. I'm like, when did Sterling was sort of drifting sideways, right? And then some of the data started coming out strong. It goes above the bull bear pivot line, and we start to see the fundamentals come in strong here, right? So I was like, right, okay, so this thing's trending up. How do I get into this trend? Once again, especially longer term, it's harder to hold a position because you're either sweating on the position, but once the position gets going, it's on. Now, if I have auto trade here and it's set to both buy and sell, it's only going to buy because the price is above the trend line, right? So I can leave that setting as it is, or I can change it to only buy. So you don't necessarily need to know everything about what's going on. In that situation, right, it doesn't get into the trend until about here, right? And then that rides that first big wave. Then we actually had a trade here, which was a loss. It was still sort of coming down. And that was a fundamental release. So we could manage that ourselves if we were in front of the markets and you knew there was a central bank announcement or an inflation number. Then it sort of triggers another sell buy signal here. And don't underestimate when these things start trending, right? I had my take profit set to 300. If I had it set to 400 or 500, it would have actually even returned a lot more money. And then once again, it's above the market. So I'm just looking for levels to buy. And it nails the sort of next sort of key level. And you come over to this last part. I think it was buying probably just here. Now, that may have stopped out on the stop loss, But if I set this to both buy and sell, it will start selling automatically if the price is below the trend line and we get sell signals, right? So longer term trends, it's a bit smoother with the operations. So let me just come back to the hourlies, right? And I'm conscious of the time and I've probably lost most of you already. But as I said, I'll post some more videos. If you look at the shape, and this is the hourly chart of sterling, right? You can see very clearly, right? This is trading sideways, starts going up. This is where you turn it on. If you see markets that are trending higher, right, and taking off, and you'll see this technically, you'd have a trend line here. You would put this into play, right? Whether you have auto trade or just trade. In a situation, if it's going up, you're a buyer. So you can either use auto trade and select both buy and sell. It will only trigger buy orders above if the price is above the bull bear pivot line, or only buy, and then we'll do it for sure. Then you're getting into these trades, right? You're getting into these trades at the cracking levels. And then when it's here, right, if it was auto trade, it would start selling and only sell on sell signals, right? If you start to get, so that's nice markets. What I'm trying to get to is situations where it starts ripping through lines. I mean, you've got a bit of a downtrend here. That's probably worth some cash. But if it starts trading sideways through a bull bear pivot line, you know these are poor market conditions. So even if you're looking at the market and you can't see what's going on, usually it's because, this is a classic example, right? This is not good trading, right? Usually this would probably happen in week 3, week 4 of the month. Actually, funnily enough, it's sort of at the back end of the week, right? So you've had the first week where we get the key fundamentals, the trend sets up the market, and then the currencies move that way. This is where Primetime Pro comes into play. And you'll be able to see by looking at your charts using Primetime Pro and including the bull bear pivot line, you're like, this is choppy market conditions. If you want to trade, switch to manual trading yourself, right? But I can tell you, this will recognize when the markets are not giving you up cash and you want to stay away from it. So not only will it trade the best opportunities for you, right? Then that's like you get this sort of false break, you get it breaking down, all of a sudden the downtrend's on, you are setting this up in play and it just goes to work and nails the market pretty much all the way, right? So the key aspect is you've got to know what's going on, right? You've got to be able to look at your charts and say, yeah, this one's going up or this one's going down, right? And you don't have to worry too much about overthinking it, right? At the moment, like just think of it like this. You've got the bull bear pivot line that tells you if it's going up or down. Well, to me, it quantifies if the price is up or down. The price is below here, right? We could draw trend lines here to make this even look a little bit more gorgeous, right? You can see very clearly, like who in their right mind is going to be selling here in the middle of nowhere? Who's going to be selling here in the middle of nowhere? Okay, it's just, this is why this tool is so good, because it's objective. It doesn't worry about what you're thinking. It looks for direction and the optimum time to get into the trade. So what you would be doing as soon as this goes down, you turn it on and you leave it on. Okay, you can come back. We have a safety net, right, on this tool, right? If you have situations, we've got a trade plan to take you out. Now you can fine tune that. If you're using technical analysis and the macro fundamentals, like the macros come out weak, it's going to keep going down, right? So you can actually finesse your stop loss and your trailing stop. So you can actually work that. But the key part to it is we can turn this off after a certain number of losing trades, right? And it works extremely well. You can set that to 1. If you have 1 losing trade, you're out, right? I set it to 3 because you know what? Imagine if your first trade was the losing trade and you had 6 winning trades after it. Okay. Now, the other part of this is when I was testing the whole system, it was the incredible accuracy of the system. Okay. So when I was sort of looking at the euro here, I was looking at, where to get in, where to get out. And I was sort of saying, I was really stoked, or maybe it was sterling. where, oh, yeah, it might have been actually. So let me just blow that up. Okay, I was really impressed that it wasn't trading here, right? That is a gimmick. It's like just jumping in wherever you can. It waited till over here to get into the trade, right? So this is the best part is it's not just jumping into every trade that comes along. It has to have a certain profile, it has to be going down, has to be super maxed out, and that's where the trading opportunities are. Okay, so that is so the accuracy over testing about 15 different instruments over different times of the year, and actually definitely using the current market conditions, which are relevant to us. It it only had, I think, out of 10 trades or 11 trades, I think that were executed, it only had one losing trade. Oh, actually, sorry, two. Two on sterling. Actually, sorry, maybe one on yen, but it was like a $700 loss. So that's the key thing to it. It's actually very accurate. So it's going to take out a lot of stress. It's going to enable you to trade more confidently, especially when you start to include your knowledge about the markets, including trend lines. That's where this starts to get super amazing. As I said, it's like trading with a team of traders that are going to say get endless hours sitting in front of the screens. And instead of you scratching your head wondering, like, okay, sterling's going down here. How do I get into a trade here and survive? How do I do it? Right? I could never really work that out. It was more sort of guessing and this, that, and the other. And that's where Primetime Pro comes into play. All right. So this is by far and away, the best thing I've ever sort of been a part of is this, right? It's going to change the way I trade, how I structure things, depending on your time zone and your lifestyle. Most of the traders I speak to are working full time, right? You don't have the time to come back to your charts. But I tell you what, most of them can do from their works in the workshop and the masterclass. They can say, yeah, that's going down. I want to get in. Well, this is going to do it for you, right? With control, with accuracy. And that is the best part about the feature. One thing that, as like a word of warning is, right, if you come back into the markets, and I've got some details here about trading short-term and long-term is a breeze, right? And for most traders don't trade long-term, okay? And that's a fact. And if you do, you're not, so the problem with trading long-term as an individual, like the trades I've done where it's picked up 20 or 30 grand, it's done like one, two, or three trades max over the course of 3 months, right? Who's going to sit in front of the screens for 3 months and execute 3 times? No one. Even on the hourly charts, it's not executing every day, right? You can just see here on Prime Time Oscillator, there's parts here where it's never overbought, and there's parts here where it's never oversold. That's fine. That's great. This is, as I'm saying, we want to be here. You want to be in front of the screens here. If that's 3 a.m., are you up? Probably not, right? If this is Friday night and you're out with your friends at the pub, yeah, you missed it again and again. These are functions. These are family events. This is working. You can't actually be there. So, but don't think it's going to just like turn over 20 trades a day. It's not. And this is why it's more professional, because it's not going to generate 100 trades. We're not looking to make micro points here. We're looking to make thousands of dollars, right? And that doesn't come from like trading like a high frequency trade signal service, right? It's nothing like that. This is so far from what the tech guys build. And you know why it's different? Because I've had 35 years experience. I understand the exact setup I need to trade. And I know you've got to sell with weakness. You've got to buy with strength. I understand technical analysis. I understand the fundamentals. You put all of these together, then basically Primetime Pro is going to execute your trade plan according to everything you know and actually trade for you where you most likely wouldn't and trade the big trends. And that's where all the cash is, right? We've been trading and making money, but you know what? You get turned over on short-term events and this, that, and the other. Markets are starting to trend. There's been no better time to get this thing into play. All right. Any questions there, Leonard? was going to say, I'm just finishing some videos. I'll post a good half dozen videos on the YouTube or on a part of the Traders4Traders site, just to show you a few other components, because once you get a handle of this, you're going to be able to, I want you to sort of feel it. I want you to be able to feel how incorporating this is going to work for you. Okay, Leonard, sorry.
Yeah. So your um bull bear line, you have that built into prime time. It doesn't go off of what's on the chart.
No, what I do on the chart is a visual, right?
Right.
With indicators and expert advisors, there's only a certain number of things you can put on a chart. So they couldn't actually, well, we're trying to work out a way to put that on, but see how I've actually manually drawn that, right? And I put this on all of my charts now anyway, because I like to see what's going on. But if I was using that, like the setting is set for the hourly charts down here, right? And this is all in the instructions.
Right, but that's good.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because on some of the charts, if you run, you'd have to run a separate day chart and a separate hourly chart. I cross mine over. So I can look at my chart and have my hourly showing up and the daily. So I got the daily trend lines in one color and the hourly trend lines on another. But the MA, or your bull bear line, I have to put two separate ones on. So I only run the 200 on the daytime, because I trade on the hourly based on what's on the daily.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense.
So I trade on the higher, I look at the higher time frame just to make sure it's going down.
But you trade on the hourly time
But
frame.
I trade off the hourly
Oh my God, that's
rather than
perfect
off the
then.
daily.
So you could set this up for the daily setting, but actually have it execute on the hourly.
Correct. And that's what I was checking. So that makes it work out. That makes it work out perfect. So I can look at my hourly chart or look at the daily chart and know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, that's right. So the amazing thing was, it's like, and I've been, as I said, working on this for some time, and I knew it would have some validity. When I made the videos of the day, I was actually doing the instructional videos, and I'd done a serious amount of testing, and I was like, this thing is amazing. And then I thought, well, you know what? Looking at the markets, looking at this recent market activity, I'm like, geez, I just can't get long dollars, subjectively. And I'm looking at the market, I'm thinking that across the whole time. I'm like the dollar just can't keep going up here. And we're looking at this across the board, and I'm looking at not just the dollar, but looking at all the other instruments here as well. And I'm like, imagine if I took out my subjectivity. And I'm like, well, hang on, Primetime Pro does that. Let me just put it in and let it execute trades according to the protocols of Primetime Pro. If it's above, the price is above the bull bear, it buys. If it's below it, it sells. And then just sit in the trends. And the results, mate, I almost hit the floor. I was on the floor, half excited, almost in tears, thinking, oh my God, I've got to get this thing into play. And then I thought, wow, you know what? I started putting trend lines around it and the fundamentals and managing the fundamentals when they come out. You can finesse this to a level where your performance rate is well into the 80s at least. Okay, and that's just considering you having some loose speculative trades. So this tool is it's mind blowing, right? So anyway, it is going to be available for you guys. I think it's going to be enhance everyone's performance. As I said, the main aim is not only to be objective, but save you spending, the best trades of the day. We see some of them and we do hit them, but 8 out of 10, there's 8 other trades out of that 10 that we would have executed had we been in front of the screens or had something to execute for us. And that's what Primetime Pro is going to do for us. The other thing is, I was going to say, one other thing. Now this is LSEG. I've got for all the traders who have Metastock, Metastock are building this into their platform. I did a bit of a presentation for them, and they went, we want to build this in. So we've struck up a deal. So on your Metastock, you will have a table that will show you the primetime pro signals and what's going on, right? So if you aren't even sure if it's going up or down, you will shortly. You sign it into Metastock and you'll have that access as well.
Yeah, because what I do is I'll look at the daily, and then I'll go back to the hourly. And if I'm really close to a daily trend line, then I'll look at it and say, well, it's going down, so I'm going to wait till it gets to that trend line, and then do the range trade on Trendline Trader for the sell. But this would enhance that a little better because I'll look and make sure that the daily and the hourly are in the same direction.
Oh, 100%, right? That's where you get like a 98% chance of success. Check out this dollar CAD trade, right? It's trending higher. Now, this is actually a classic example because everyone, when you look at this trend, okay, you look at the trend here. Let me and you're like, oh man, this is primed to go down. I used to do this all the time, right? You miss this
Mm-hmm.
part of the trend, and then you're like, oh man, this thing's got to go down. It's got to go down. It's just like so, but no, it doesn't. It actually can keep going up and keep going up and going up. We've got a level here. We've got a support trend line. We've got the bull bear line below it, and it's getting close to an overbought, oversold situation, right? So to me, I'm like, well, you know what? If I was completely objective, I would buy here. But what happens is because our human instincts, we sort of think, you think the worst almost. And that's what keeps you out of some of these trades. So trading the dailies, super calm, right? The signals, they aren't there every day. Like they're changing once every month or 2 months, right? That's why trading the long-term charts is easier. It's more accurate, right? Because it just nails the big moves. Hourly charts, there's a lot more vigorous activity. And don't forget, we can put this on to not only the majors, if we see a currency start trending, say for instance, the central bank, like sterling has been the best performing instrument against the dollar up until recently, you could be hitting all the sterling crosses with the same thing, right? So it's not limited to just the majors. I have not tested it across the equities and a few other things, but I will be. So
If if
yeah,
you would have used that on the yen pairs a couple of days ago and
yeah,
set up because all the signals were everybody was looking to sell. But if you really went in and took a look at it, like take a look at the US, yeah, you're looking at the yen pairs. There's a surge in all the yen for a buy,
yep,
and everybody was looking for a sell. But
exactly.
your trader pro time would have picked up that buy because
Oh,
you could see where it took
100%. Yeah.
because it was all set up for the buy. But everybody's sitting there saying, "Oh, sell," and waiting for it, and then you missed out on it.
That's right, Leonard. That's what it's all about. All right, I'm gonna have to drop it there, Leonard. I've actually got to get something done here. But what I'll do, I'll post some videos online, and I'll get you guys some more information about this. It is hopefully it just gives you a bit of an idea of how it works and what the structure is. There's a lot of functionality. It looks extensive, but it's very easy to operate. But thanks for joining me. I'll get this video up online and then you can ask more questions and we'll go from there.
When will it be available?
MT5, I could get it up tomorrow. The C Trader early next week.
Okay, so MT4 and MT5 would be up tomorrow.
Yeah, well, just MT5. They've got to do the MT4 component. So the
Okay.
but we're just coding in some licensing protection. So that's why C Trade is just taking a little bit longer, but it is good. I do have a pre-launch offer there as well for you guys on, I think I put it under the announcements yesterday. We haven't sent out any emails. I wanted to keep this low key. I didn't want to like give traders the opportunity to get the discount. Like it will be available for around 5 grand. I've given you guys a 30% discount. So think about it. Contact me if you've got more details. You can check out the site. I've got some videos on there, how it works. I've got to add some more structure around just the instructional stuff, and then you guys can rip in. All right, Leonard.
Okay.
Sorry you were late there, Richard, but I'll just get ahead and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you.
No worries. No worries.
I'll post the recording online in the next couple of minutes. Cheers, mate.